Right then, let's talk WZ-1321. This is a very interesting tank. Now, it comes with a new ability, Adaptive Concealment, which so far has been somewhat of a mixed bag. In some cases, it is incredibly strong, and in others, it's kind of useless. Now, this is much more impactful than the T100LT's, tracer rounds, because it's something you can actually feel while you're playing the game. Typically, the tracer rounds, they're nice to have, but generally speaking, people don't really peek once they've been shot, and especially once they know they've been spotted. Now, the 132 sits in a very awkward position, because while I was playing it, it felt like it was trying to be several tanks at once. The sort of playstyle kind of fits in with like Russian mediums, like the T62A and the Object 140. But when it was being a scout and was being like a light tank sort of thing, it felt like it was trying to be somewhat of like a Leopard or a medium along those lines. And because of that, WZ feels like it's like a slightly worse version of all of them. It doesn't have any of the armor of the Russian mediums. At the same time, it doesn't have the hit points or even the gun handling of, the Leopard, which can make it seem unappealing. The tank does have some really good redeeming qualities, though. The aim time is, it's got that Chinese aim time, 2.2 seconds if you max out the tank with 100% crew and provisions and full equipment. At 2.2 seconds is really good, and it helps for really, fast shots, especially if you need to take a quick shot behind a bush. Now, I run my tank with Coated Optics, I think it's called. Yeah, it's the one that gives you more view range. And despite that, it still doesn't have as much view range as, say, the Leopard 1 or the Vickers. And I'm going to compare it a lot to the Leopard 1, because the Leopard 1 is the tank that I play the most often. And if this tank is going to sort of come in and replace my Leopard 1 as sort of a scout or as a damage dealer, it needs to sort of compare itself to it. Now, I do play other tanks, like the 121, the FE4202, the Object 140, so I'm familiar with its competition. And let's just say this tank is in a very, I already said, it's in a very interesting position. I'm going to show you a quick game here. Probably my only good game in the WZ. So, this game takes place in Canyon. Now, the WZ doesn't really have great gun depression, so I'm going to be taking it towards A side. And I get really aggressive here. I push into A a lot more aggressively than I should. And because of that, I end up getting spotted really early at the start. Now, thankfully, I don't really get punished for it. And because of the WZ's fast reset rate, I'm actually able to go where I probably should have gone much faster. Spot out to 60 TP. Back up, let the bush do its thing, and take a quick shot. Now, I don't recommend doing that, because the WZ has really poor penetration. 230 millimeters of base pen. Not great. Really, it's not something you really want to be taking to a front line with a bunch of heavies. And that'll become quite apparent throughout this replay, that this tank struggles to penetrate some of its shots, and to make some of them even hit its target in the first place. Because although the aim time is exceptional and the DPM is really good, it really struggles to connect that damage. For example, here I am at the very outskirts of the map, because I'm really not trying to get spotted. And I miss. It is somewhat of a hard shot, so I can't really blame it. Take another shot, and there's the little viewed icon. The 60 TP currently sees me. I take one more shot before retreating. Now, when you're spotted, or when, tanks can see you, it's really neat to have that little icon, because it helps you do stuff like this. I have just ran past the 60 TP and a grill without a care in the world. If I was in the T100LT or the Leopard 1, I would never do that, because I don't want to be spotted and then receive a bunch of punishment. It's a lot of unnecessary hit point loss. But I can do it again in the WZ, because, well, he doesn't see me. And I know he doesn't see me because the icon doesn't show up. So it lets you make these really bold plays, and it has light tank camo. So it can just keep its camo on the move, and as long as you're hugging the walls, you're fine. There you can see the tank's abysmal penetration. I can't even get through that with AP. Can't even go through weak points with AP. And there's a T-57 Heavy. I thankfully go through, but that was an awful lot of red for a T-57 Heavy. A tank that doesn't have great penetration, or great armor, sorry. And again, the Progetto, the shot just doesn't go through. Here, the mobility kind of comes into play. Again, it's a light tank. It does its job. Aim time, thankfully, lets me get the shot through. And it's a lot of this, and this is sort of how you want to be playing your light tanks in general. You want to keep them moving, actively looking for shots. And the WZ, maybe I play it too much like a Leopard, and that's why I don't have that much success in it. But I feel like, you know, in a tank like this, generally you don't want to be shot at. And you kind of want to be putting your DPM to good use. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Constantly looking for somewhere to stick my gun to constantly shoot my opponents. And I don't stick around very long in front of those things because I can't penetrate them. Even here with this 60 TP, I take this risk thinking that, well, he can't shoot me. Oh, and how wrong I was. So, I immediately abandoned this position because I have the gun depression or the penetration to stick around. So instead, I'm going to help here in this bit of a scuffle. Fire heat, can't trust the pen on the gun. Hit adrenaline, really want to clear out these guns as quickly as possible. The enemy WZ manages to get a shot on me. And here, I'm just going to farm the Type 71 for the damage. I see the 60 TP who's starting to push up, and I really don't want to get hit by that 60 TP, because then it would put me in a pretty bad situation. And again, I run from the Type 71 because if I get shot by either of these tanks, it leaves me a one shot for the other. Which, not a great situation here. Now, I fight the 60 TP, and I try to stay away from the Type 71 as much as possible, and thankfully he fires early, allowing me to take him out. And now because I have my hit points, 164, I'm much more confident I can push the 60 TP. Now here, I kind of have a tough choice to make. I can stick around and try to fight the 60 TP, or I can go Cap C. Now, I go Cap C because I wasn't sure if my 60 TP was going to survive the encounter with the Progetto. And if he didn't, well, having C capped would have been very disastrous per se. So I go in Cap C, even though the enemy team isn't going to win. I still decide to cap, you know, for some experience, a couple credits. And now the rest of the game is just pretty chill. And I've done 4,000 damage, 3 tanks spotted, and I get most of my hit points. Overall, a fairly good game in the WZ. And this game is excellent because it just sort of shows the benefits and the downsides of the WZ, where it can fill some of the roles, and, you know, active concealment does actually help in some situations. But at the same time, there is an argument to be had that I didn't have to make that play. You know, crossing across the bridge where the 60 TP was in the grill, it wasn't something that was necessarily beneficial to me. Matter of fact, it probably would have been dangerous if that Yag had still chilled out back there. So, the WZ. Is it broken? Most certainly not. It is good. It is a good tank, and it's relatively fun to drive. Do I recommend it? Yeah, actually. The WZ is somewhat noob-friendly. Its DPM is pretty good. The penetration, although bad, isn't terrible. And the mechanic, you know, adaptive concealment, actually does let you get pretty familiar with World of Tanks and its spotting mechanics. There is negative downside to it, though. If you are spotted by a tank in a bush and you see another tank, it can sort of create a false sense of security, because if you see that the tank that you thought spotted you no longer sees you, you might pull out and take a shot, when in reality the tank in the bush is still very aware that you're there, and you receive a healthy dose of damage. That's all I really have to say. The WZ has been a very interesting and fun tank to drive. Would I take it over my Leopard? No. Would I take it over my 200 LT? Maybe. It really depends on the situation. But it is certainly a tank that I will keep in my garage and continue to play here and there. Thank you for watching this video, which has been in the works for the entire day. This has been nonstop. Oh my god, I'm so tired, out of breath. Jesus, man. I can't handle this, dude. I'm like 500 pounds. My chin's, dog.